The world's longest sea crossing has divided the internet. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Bridge. Whenever something happens to be the world's biggest anything, there's bound to be some pushback. Today, we'll decide whether the world's largest sea crossing is an engineering success or a waste of time, effort, and money. The 34-mile bridge connects Hong Kong with Macao and Zhuhai in China. Ever since Hong Kong and Macao, two previous colonies of Britain and Portugal respectively, were returned to China, there was a need to connect these two with mainland China. This was done to drive economic growth and socially integrate them with mainstream China. The bridge has dramatically reduced travel time between Hong Kong and Zhuhai from 4 hours to 40 minutes on the road. These three locations, otherwise separated by water, are geographically close. By utilizing the sea route, China made a much more direct and fast connection between these three regions. It's similar to what the Fehmarn Undersea Tunnel is about. By establishing a tunnel between Denmark and Germany, the travel time has been significantly reduced between the two nations. We've created a video about it, so if you're interested, do check it out. Zhuhai is a major port city on the Pearl River Delta in China. Sometimes referred to as the Greater Bay Area, it's one of the most densely populated areas of the region, but it's still one of the most urbanized and richest regions in South China. By cutting down travel time and hence the transportation costs, the commerce and especially the logistics industries will greatly benefit from it. It's great for Hong Kong too, as it solidifies its position in the trade and tourism sector. This has created a 1-hour living circle in the Pearl Delta region. Let's walk through the general plan of the bridge. It consists of 3 cable-stayed bridges, an undersea tunnel, and 4 artificial islands. The bridge is designed to last 120 years and cost 127 billion yuan, or $19 billion to build. The 34-mile bridge consists of 3 sections. The main bridge, spanning up to 14 miles or 23 kilometers, the undersea tunnel, and the Hong Kong Link Road. The main bridge is the largest part of the whole project. It starts with the Zhuhai-Macao Artificial Island Port, which houses the boundary crossing facilities for both China and Macao. Needless to say, it's a breathtaking structure with a white, almost circular roof. The artificial island port creates a political, economic, and cultural link between the 3 cities. The bridge construction consumed 400,000 tons of steel, enough to build 60 Eiffel Towers, while 300,000 cubic meters of concrete was utilized. The main bridge ends at the sea tunnel. The tunnel is created to provide a pathway for the ships to pass to not hinder the sea trade because of the bridge. Alternatively, ships can also pass underneath the cable-stayed bridges. The tunnel is set at a depth of 146 feet and is 4.2 miles in length. It's an immersed tube tunnel, which means that the tunnel elements will be built on land and subsequently lowered into the sea. On both ends of the tunnel, there are 2 artificial islands, the Blue Dolphin Island on the west and the White Dolphin Island on the east. The road traffic enters the immersed tunnel through the first portal, which is the artificial island. Once it emerges above ground through the second island, that's where Hong Kong's Link Road starts. The bridge is not served by public transport, so private shuttle buses will run along the route. The shuttle service, also known as the Golden Buses, will run 24 hours of the day with bus departures every 5 minutes. One of the criticisms of the project is that there's no rail link. Imagine the biggest sea crossing in the world not having a rail link, which could have made travel even faster. Compared to the Øresund Bridge between Denmark and Sweden, which is a combined railway and road bridge. 2 tracks are reserved for rail and 4 lanes for road traffic, making Øresund the longest combined road and railway bridge in the world. The Hong Kong Road Link is a 7.4-mile dual 3-lane carriageway connecting the main bridge and the port. The Hong Kong port is located on a piece of reclaimed land consisting of approximately 150 hectares. Inside the port, there's an aesthetic passenger clearance building, PCB. Its purpose is to oversee vehicle clearance plazas and public transport interchanges at the Hong Kong port. Its curved roof represents the sea waves and offers unobstructed views. Its skylights filter natural light to minimize power usage for the whole building. Tree-like columns support the roof and provide an airy feel inside. Because of the project's proximity to the airport, there was a height restriction for the roof. For this reason, a total of 81 prefabricated roof segments were completed off-site and then connected together. The roof stretched up to the size of 9 FIFA football pitches. Different types of plants were used to provide greenery and color in different patterns, covering over 30% of the Hong Kong port. On one hand, this project seems to ease the burden of daily commuters like truck drivers, etc., who have to drive hours and hours and pay hefty tolls. On the other hand, getting a permit to pass this bridge is not easy. Those who want to cross the bridge must obtain special permits allocated by a quota system, and all vehicles will pay a toll, albeit lower than the expressway. In a bid to solve its traffic congestion issues, the Hong Kong government imposes significant fees, taxes, and administrative paperwork on private vehicles. This ultimately means that driving a car on the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Bridge would incur the same restrictions as the current cross-border traffic. The required documents include driver's license for both Hong Kong and mainland China, a Hong Kong closed road permit for cross-boundary vehicles, and an approval notice from the Guangdong Public Security Bureau. This document hunt might take 2 weeks, so if you plan to go to Hong Kong through this bridge, better plan in advance. Vehicle owners also need to ensure they have the appropriate insurance coverage for the regions they're traveling to. By the end of 2017, only 10,000 permits were issued for private vehicles to drive across the bridge from Hong Kong to Zhuhai. Macao is also dealing with road congestion problems and allows a small quota of 300 vehicles to enter directly. Moreover, visitors are encouraged to park their cars behind and travel using the public transport system to lower the number of cars on the roads. The lengthy paperwork has led to some people calling the project a white elephant and a waste of taxpayers' money. The creation of the artificial islands also posed a challenge in an area with strong currents. Instead of reclaiming the land in the traditional way, which is by dumping heavy rock and cement, the constructors tried a different approach. They anchored circular steel piles in the mud and filled it with inert material to form the base of the island. There were reports of a 66-foot drift on the reclaimed land housing the Hong Kong border facility building. Officials dismissed these reports, but admitted that parts of the reclaimed land had moved up to 6 or 7 meters. According to them, this movement was expected and the safety of the structure wasn't jeopardized. This incident delayed the project, and whenever a mega project gets delayed, there's a cost overrun. By 2017, the main bridge portion had a cost overrun of 10 billion yuan that was blamed on increased labor and material costs, as well as changes to the design schemes. Another controversy was the lack of worker safety on site. 9 fatalities were reported on the Chinese side, while more than 10 deaths were reported on the Hong Kong side of the project. In addition, 200 to 600 were reported injured depending on the source. There isn't much accurate information as to how many died on the Chinese side, so there is a possibility that number could be higher. That's not all. In 2017, Hong Kong's Independent Commission Against Corruption, ICAC, arrested 21 employees, including lab technicians and senior executives, for fake safety testing. Apparently, the bridge's concrete was being tested, and the arrested individuals falsified the test report. This raised serious questions regarding the integrity of the bridge and the artificial islands as well. Hong Kong's highway departments conducted new tests after this controversy and found that the bridge meets the safety standards. Furthermore, all the heavy land reclamation and construction had a serious impact on marine life. WWF Hong Kong blamed the bridge's construction for the falling number of white dolphins in the waters. The population of white dolphins had dropped by a drastic 60% due to this mega project. According to WWF, the number of dolphins seen in Hong Kong waters has decreased from 148 to 47 in the past 10 years, and they are now absent from the waters near the bridge. Given the billions of dollars already spent on the bridge, officials are hopeful they'll receive back their investment. Chinese officials say it'll generate up to 10 trillion yuan or $1.44 trillion for the economy. According to an estimate by BBC Chinese, the bridge will only earn around 86 million in tolls per year. However, the bridge's high maintenance cost will take a third of this figure. What do you think of the Hong Kong-China Bridge? Does it serve a practical purpose, or is it just symbolically created to connect Hong Kong and China? We have lost count of the times China plans to build the biggest something. This time, it's the Qingdao Jiaozhou Bay Tunnel. It's expected to be the longest undersea tunnel for roads after the Rogfast Tunnel in Norway. Qingdao City lies on the main shore of Jiaozhou Bay and comprises 3 districts from south to north: the Xinan District, Xibei District, and finally the Likang District. The districts are divided based on the kind of buildings they have. For example, the Xinan is the most glamorous spot, hosting a variety of hotels, beaches, and other attractions. On the other hand, Xibei and Likang districts are both better known for commercial and tourism reasons. With a population of nearly 9 million, Qingdao is one of the largest cities in the Shandong province, the home of the famous philosopher Confucius. It also has one of the busiest ports in the world, the Qingdao port. The Qingdao port is open to 177 ports around the world, making Qingdao one of the most prosperous cities in the region. That's one of the many reasons it has the highest GDP of any city in the province. If you're visiting Qingdao, you can expect to find all sorts of cultural relics like churches, historic German architecture, and former residences of celebrities in the Qingdao Old Town. Why German? Well, it's because at the end of the 19th century, Qingdao became a German colonial outpost. So it's not uncommon to find old German-style buildings here and there. Being a coastal city, Qingdao has somewhat of a unique geometry. It has an east and west coast separated by the beautiful Jiaozhou Bay. This caused a gap between the east and west that needed to be bridged. In the past, most of the urban development was limited to the east coast. However, with the creation of the Jiaozhou Expressway, the interconnections of both sides improved. But due to the region's ever-increasing population, traffic congestion increased on the city's main arteries. To solve congestion as well as slash travel time, China invested in sea crossing structures. Currently, if you want to travel from the west side of Qingdao to the east or vice versa, you can take the longer route from the mainland using the Jiaozhou Bay Express or use the sea crossing bridge. In addition, there's the first Qingdao subsea tunnel, which opened in 2011 and connects the west coast with the Shannan district in the east. At the time, it was considered the world's longest open water bridge, totaling a length of 4.8 miles. Similarly, the Jiaozhou Bay Bridge is also one of the world's longest bridges with a total span of 16.6 miles. Both the bridge and the first Qingdao underwater tunnel were inaugurated on the same day as the Jiaozhou Bay Connection project. Shortly after the first tunnel was opened, research began on the second sea-spanning tunnel for road traffic. In total, 4 pre-feasibility and 15 feasibility studies were conducted by China's leading experts, including academic Qian Qihu. Spanning up to 10 miles, it'll feature 6 two-way lanes, making it longer than Norway's Reifalk Tunnel, which is a mile shorter. The bay is 20 miles long and 17 miles wide, with a surface area of 362 square kilometers. It's a natural inlet of the Yellow Sea with a depth of 33 to 49 feet. The bay supports 3 major ports: Qingdao, Guangdao, and Hongdao, all of which are ice-free during the winter. According to official data, the decreasing surface area of Jiaozhou is due to continuous construction projects that require heavy land reclamation. The marine species have also decreased by 2/3 during the last 50 years. Out of 170 species found in the northwestern part during the 1970s, only 17 were found in 1989. Such is the importance of this bay that after World War II ended, the Treaty of Versailles dictated that all former German Pacific territories, including Jiaozhou Bay, be given to Japan. This unexpected decision led to wide protests in China known as the May 4th movement, which is now regarded as a significant event in modern China history. As a result, the then Chinese government refused to sign the treaty. The recent developments in the Qingdao Bay area are a reflection of its past and present importance. The west coast of Qingdao, also known as Huangdao, is declared a state-level new area. For those who don't know, state-level new areas are urban districts that are given special economic and development support by the Chinese central government or regional government. In the mid-1980s, the Qingdao Economic and Technological Development Zone was built in the Huangdao district. The second Jiaozhou Bay Tunnel will not only further bind the east and west sides, but will also optimize the city's urban structure, allowing both sides of the strait to flourish. To build the tunnel, 8 million cubic meters of earth and stone were excavated from the seabed. This figure is more than Japan's Seikan Tunnel, which utilized 5.2 million cubic meters, and Europe's Channel Project, which consumed 4.8 million cubic meters. The tunnel's plan will incorporate an auxiliary service tunnel and is designed to accommodate speeds of up to 50 miles an hour. The tunnel will begin at the Huahe East Road in the West Coast New District and will pass under Jiaozhou Bay before landing at Qingdao Port and connecting to the East Coast. What makes the project complex, other than the fact that it's undersea, is there are 22 fault lines in this section of the bay, not to mention that the condition of the seabed varies with distance. The upper strata are soft, while the lower strata consist of full sections of hard rock. So, how do you make a tunnel through this mess? Well, there are a few ways. The first is the drill and blast method, which involves controlled blasting to make a path in the seabed. This method is great for both hard and soft rock. Next, we have the immersed tube tunnel. As the name is pretty self-explanatory, sections of the tunnel are created on dry land and lowered into the sea using cranes. An example of this is the Fehmarn Belt Tunnel, the longest immersion tunnel in the world. But the problem with these is that not only are costly, but also require extensive land reclamation, which disturbs the marine ecosystem. Furthermore, immersed tube tunnels suit deep seas, like in the case of Fehmarn Tunnel, its deepest portion is 130 feet below the water's surface, while the Jiaozhou Bay is only 33 to 49 feet deep. So this option's out. Another option is single shield tunneling. This includes using a gigantic machine that drills through the soil. Picture a simple drill machine that makes a hole in a plank of wood. In essence, the tunnel machine is a drill machine of the sea. Since the tunneling machine is large, it is transported in pieces and assembled on the spot. But the real question is, how did this giant go inside the soil? Well, for that, tons and tons of soil is dug on the coastal area. The tunnel machine's main components include the cutter head, which is lowered through the portal and then assembled there. In this case, the engineers combined both drilling and blasting and shield tunneling to make the second Qingdao Bay Tunnel. Certain sections of the main line will be created using both methods, while the service tunnel and auxiliary caverns use and blast exclusively. The cutter head of the tunnel boring machine was successfully installed on November 13, 2023. The tunnel machine has a tunnel excavation diameter of 50 feet, a total length of 465 feet, and weighs over 5,000 tons. The tunnel machine proceeds by digging the soil and rock with a shield located at the front of the tunnel. The tunnel machine fills the space behind it with concrete as it progresses. The maximum depth is 224 feet, and the maximum water pressure reaches 9.4 bar on the tunnel. This is equivalent to bearing 9.4 kilograms on a fingernail-sized area. The TBM will start tunneling from the tunnel shaft located in Qingdao Port, heading west towards the coast, traversing various complex geological conditions. Although no official dates available, it's expected that this project will be completed and put into service by December 2027. Its construction is being spearheaded by Qingdao Consent Development, which invests and operates several key infrastructure projects in the municipality. The second tunnel will go a long way in solidifying Qingdao's position as a modern, dynamic city of the 21st century. Qingdao is also a major nodal city on the Belt and Road Initiative that connects continental and East Asia with Europe. Infrastructure projects like the Jiaozhou Bay Tunnel will go a long way in the field of China's maritime infrastructure and promoting trade and commerce. China is taking on a massive challenge with the South to North Water Diversion project. It's the biggest water transfer project ever attempted. They're building thousands of kilometers of canals, aqueducts, and tunnels to move water from the wetter south to the dry industrial north. Why are they doing this? Northern China, including Beijing, faces severe water shortages. The government hopes this project will solve that problem by redirecting fresh water from the south. However, the project is incredibly expensive and comes with significant environmental concerns. It involves altering natural waterways and could disrupt local ecosystems. Let's see how they plan to do this. The South to North Water Diversion project in China is the biggest water transfer project ever attempted. It's designed to draw waters from rivers in the south and supply it to the drier northern regions. This massive undertaking has already been half a century in the making, from its initial concept to the start of construction. The entire project is expected to be completed by 2050, and it'll divert 44.8 billion cubic meters of water each year to the North's population centers. Once completed, the project will connect four of China's main rivers: the Yangtze, Yellow River, Huahe, and Huaihe. This requires building three main diversion routes that run south to north across the eastern, central, and western parts of the country. The total cost of the project is expected to be around $62 billion, which is more than twice the cost of China's controversial Three Gorges Dam. North China has always been a hub for population, industry, and agriculture. With all three sectors growing rapidly, the per capita share of this region's limited water resources has kept shrinking. This situation has historically led to the overexploitation of groundwater. Urban and industrial development often get priority, leaving agriculture to suffer. This imbalance has caused severe weather shortages in rural areas. Additionally, excessive groundwater use has been linked to land subsidence in the region's frequent sandstorms. The South to North Water Diversion project aims to address these issues by diverting nearly 45 billion cubic meters of water annually from the south to the north. The idea for this ambitious project was first proposed by the late Chairman Mao Zedong in 1952. He envisioned it as a solution to the growing water shortages in cities like Beijing and Tianjin, and in northern provinces such as Hebei, Henan, and Shandong. Fast forward 50 years to August 23, 2002, the project was approved by the State Council after extensive research, planning, and discussion. Work began on the eastern route in December of that year, and construction on the central route started a year later. A special limited liability company was established to oversee the construction, operation, and maintenance of the main project. Each province involved in the project was required to set up a water supply company to manage local administration and infrastructure. The eastern route of the south to north water diversion project was initially planned to supply water to Shandong province in the northern part of Jiangsu by 2007, a year ahead of schedule. However, it faced delays. The water for this route is diverted from a major branch of the Yangtze River near Yangzhou City. It travels along existing river channels to the Weishan Mountains in Shandong, then crosses the Yellow River via a tunnel, eventually flowing to Tianjin. When completed, this diversion will be slightly over 1,155 kilometers long. It involves constructing 23 new pumping stations with a combined capacity of 453.7 megawatts in the first stage alone. These will complement the 7 existing stations, which will also be rehabilitated and upgraded. This segment of the project includes nearly 9 kilometers of tunnels running from the outlet of Dongping Lake to the inlet of Weilan Canal. This includes a 634-meter-long siphon section and 2 9.3-meter diamond horizontal tunnels 70 meters beneath the Huangbei riverbed. Several key projects of the eastern route have already been completed. However, progress was delayed due to farm and industrial pollution, which threatened the quality of the water. The completion date was pushed to 2013. Construction of the central route began in December 2003. It was initially planned to be finished before the Beijing Olympics in August 2008 to provide the city with drinking water. However, by September 2008, only 307 kilometers of the central route had been completed. The central route diverts water from the Jiaozhou Reservoir on the Han River. The new canals run near the western end on the Huanghui High Plain, flowing through Henan and Hebei provinces to Beijing, covering a total distance of 1,267 kilometers. The nearby city of Tianjin will also draw water from the trunk line near Sushi near Hebei province. Initially designed to transfer 9.5 billion cubic meters of water annually, this amount is expected to increase to 13 to 14 billion cubic meters by 2030. The construction includes 2 tunnels, each 8.5 meters in diameter and 7 kilometers long, with a flow design of 500 cubic meters a second. Due to declining reserves in the Dongping Reservoir, there's been a suggestion to draw additional water from the Three Gorges Reservoir to meet the demands of this part of the project. Currently, water from the Han River has not yet reached the completed canal. Instead, the canal is supplied by various reservoirs in the Hebei province. The Central Route project was initially scheduled for completion by 2010, but has been postponed to 2014. This delay is due to environmental concerns and the need to expand the Dongping Reservoir. Construction of the Western Route, which involves working on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau at altitudes between 3,000 and 5,000 meters above sea level, was scheduled to begin in 2010. China has reserved 53.87 billion yuan, $7.9 billion US dollars, specifically for the south to north water diversion project. Of this amount, the central government has budgeted 15.42 billion yuan treasury bonds, accounting for 10.65 billion yuan, and local governments are contributing 7.99 billion yuan. Loans will cover the remaining 19.81 billion yuan. The construction costs have significantly increased due to rises in commodity prices, changes in national policy, and shifts in the project's investment structure. So far, close to 31 billion yuan of the reserve funds have been spent on the construction of the eastern 5.6 billion yuan and central routes 24.8 billion yuan. The overall south to north water diversion project is a monumental effort to address China's water scarcity issues, involving extensive planning, significant financial investment, and overcoming numerous engineering challenges. Environmental concerns of the water diversion project. Similar to China's other mega project, the Three Gorges Dam, the south to north water diversion project has sparked numerous environmental concerns. Key issues include the loss of antiquities, the displacement of people, and the destruction of pasture land. Additionally, plans for further industrialization along the project routes pose a serious risk of pollution to the diverted water. To help mitigate this threat, the Chinese government has allocated just over $80 million in the eastern Jiangsu province to build treatment facilities. However, estimates suggest that the actual cost of these facilities is more than double this figure. In total, around 260 projects have been initiated to reduce pollution and ensure that the water in the diversion areas meets minimum drinking standards. Key players in the water diversion project. The South to North Water Transfer Project Company is the main project owner. Pre-project construction work has been carried out by Hangjiang Water Resources and Hydropower. The project's management involves several key organizations: the State Development and Planning Commission, the Ministry of Water Resources, the Ministry of Construction, the State Environment Protection Administration, and China International Engineering Consultant Corporation. GCW Consulting is providing infrastructure development plans. The Heihe Water Resources Commission and Tianjin Hydroelectric Investigation and Design Institute are responsible for the design and planning of the eastern route. The Changjiang Water Resources Commission is in charge of the middle route, and the Yellow River Conservancy Commission is overseeing the western route. Construction on the eastern route is being carried out by Hangjiang Water Resources and Hydropower, while the middle route is being built by Dangzhou Water Resources and Hydroelectric. Over the 50-year period of extensive planning and research needed to transform Mao's initial concept into the current project, many of China's ministries, organizations, and institutes have been involved. Their collective efforts aim to ensure the project's success despite the numerous challenges and concerns it faces. The Solar Star is the biggest solar plant in the U.S., sitting in Kern, California. It's over 8 square miles and can generate 579 megawatts. That's enough to power around 255,000 homes. Pretty impressive, but about 6,500 miles away, in China's Kubuqi Desert, there's a solar facility that's set to dwarf Solar Star and nearly every other solar plant on Earth. The Kubuqi Desert gets about 280 days of sunshine a year and has steady winds, making it a tough place to live but perfect for solar and wind power. That's why China is building the Kubuqi Renewables base here. It's about the size of 20 Central Parks, and once fully operational, it'll supply 16 gigawatts of power to over 1 million homes. But Kubuqi is just one part of a massive network. China's building around 225 similar bases across its western and northern deserts. Together, these projects will have a capacity of 455 gigawatts, with 60% coming from solar and 40% from wind. To give you an idea of how much that is, it's more clean energy than any country outside of China currently generates. This system could almost cover India's energy needs by itself. That 455 gigawatts is equal to the combined green energy generation of the UK, Australia, and Indonesia, plus all the power that Brazil produces. China also holds the largest share of solar power capacity in the world, adding about 40 gigawatts in 2020 alone, bringing its total installed solar capacity to 240 gigawatts. This is a 5-fold increase since 2015, and it could double again in the next 5 years, according to the China Photovoltaic Industry Association. Here are the largest solar power plants in China. Xinjiang Solar Farm. This 3.5 gigawatt, 32,947 acre solar farm is located in the desert area of Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang. It went online recently and is expected to generate about 6 billion kilowatt hours of electricity each year. That's enough to power Papua New Guinea for an entire year. Golmud Solar Park. Situated near Golmud City in Qinghai Province, this 138 megawatt concentrator photovoltaics power station is the largest operating CPV facility in the world. Built in 2 phases starting in 2012 by Suncor Photovoltaics, it sits at an elevation of about 2,800 meters on the Tibetan Plateau near the Gobi Desert, alongside several other conventional photovoltaic power stations. Tengger Desert Solar Park. Located in Ningxia, the Tengger Desert Solar Park is the second largest solar power plant in China and the 5th biggest in the world. This 1.5 gigawatt facility, often called the Great Wall of Solar, covers 1,200 kilometers of the 36,000 kilometer Tengger Desert. Brought online in 2017, it's owned by the China National Grid and Shuanghui Power Supply Company and provides clean energy to more than 600,000 homes. Datong Solar Power Top Runner Base. Located in Datong City, Shaanxi Province, this facility is currently the 3rd largest solar power plant in China. It forms part of the National Energy Administration's plan to boost solar projects in the region. The plant has a capacity of about 1 gigawatt following the completion of its first phase in 2016. Once all phases are done, Datong is expected to become the largest solar site globally, with an installed capacity of 3 gigawatts. The development involves several companies, including Datong United Photovoltaics New Energy, Datong Coal Mine Group, and Jinko Solar Holding, among others. Jinchuan Solar Park. The Jingcheng Jintai Solar PV Park, located in Gansu, China, has a capacity of 200 megawatts. The project, tracked by global data, became operational in 2013 and was developed in a single phase. Yanqi Ningxia Solar Park. Situated in the Yanqi district of Ningxia, this solar park is the fourth biggest in China, with an installed capacity of 1 gigawatt. When it came online in September 2016, it was considered the world's biggest continuous solar PV array. The plant operates through the Fusion Solar Smart O&M Cloud Center, which uses cloud computing and big data for efficient management. It has an estimated lifespan of 25 years. These solar bases, along with others set to come online soon, position China to potentially surpass the world's current power supply. How and why is this possible? You probably know that deserts are perfect for renewable energy generation. You can't have a solar farm without sun, and deserts, well, they've got plenty of it. Likewise, wind farms need wind, and the broad, warm, flat expanses of the desert provide reliable wind currents and predictable power generations. But I gotta admit, I haven't shown you any pictures of the Kubuqi Desert. Instead, I've shown images from the Ulaanbaatar, Tengger, and Badain-Jiran deserts, all of which are also in China. Over a fifth of China's landmass is desert, making it one of the biggest countries in the world with ample room to work with. Deserts aren't exactly prime real estate, so China's taken advantage of this cheap land and abundance of sand to build these massive renewable energy bases. This approach helps reduce the cost of solar and wind power. China's vast resources and space allow for the construction of big, affordable solar and wind energy facilities. But there's another key factor in play. Back in the 90s, China saw a financial opportunity in meeting Germany's growing demand for solar panels. With nearby raw materials and a well-structured supply chain, China produced a large number of affordable solar panels. This led to tension with other solar companies worldwide who didn't appreciate the government subsidies and incentives China used. In response, many countries imposed tariffs on Chinese-made solar panels in the 2000s. However, China adapted by expanding its own domestic renewables program. This increased domestic demand for solar panels and turbines. As China's economic and industrial power grew, so did the demand for renewable energy. This synergy between economic growth and renewable energy development has positioned China as a global leader in the green energy sector. China's ability to build massive renewable energy bases comes down to a few key factors: cheap access to green technology, immense manufacturing power, and vast amounts of land that are perfect for solar and wind generation. However, the how is not as interesting as the why behind China's rapid expansion in renewables. One big reason for China's push into renewable energy is reliability. In 2021, Beijing, one of the biggest cities in the world, faced a crippling blackout. This was not an isolated incident. A global coal shortage, partly due to the pandemic, left parts of China in the dark since over half the country's energy comes from coal. Droughts also meant hydroelectric plants struggled to meet demand. These blackouts were detrimental to both Chinese citizens and their economy. Pollution's another big factor. Beijing and other cities often experience thick, toxic smog due to the heavy reliance on fossil fuels to get power. China's massive industrial sector and population require loads of electricity, mostly coming from fossil fuels, leading to severe pollution. This is not the image a rising global power needs to project. China is also the world's second largest consumer of oil, burning over 13 million barrels a day in 2023 while producing only about 4 million. This reliance on imported oil, around 11.4 million barrels a day, is quite costly. Achieving energy independence would be hugely beneficial. In the near term, the renewable energy plants should lead to less polluted air, not just for China, but neighboring countries as well. If China keeps building these facilities and the tech keeps improving, there could be opportunities for these neighbors to buy surplus clean energy from China. Countries like Mongolia, which currently supply much of China's coal, are keenly aware of China's green transition and are exploring alternative ways to generate energy and income as coal demand declines. Mongolia, sharing the Gobi Desert with China, has similar potential for generating solar and wind energy. This presents an opportunity for China to export not just energy, but also expertise and materials for energy generation to its neighbors. Since 2013, China has been making economic and literal inroads globally. especially in the global south, through its Belt and Road Initiative. This initiative is like a modern Silk Road, where China builds up countries' infrastructures in exchange for favorable access to their natural resources. Under the BRI, China can potentially build green infrastructure in these countries too. Though the BRI is controversial, with some calling it a form of neo-colonialism, others, including the World Bank, note that it can raise a country's GDP and boost the world's economy. It offers these countries access to infrastructure development that might otherwise be unavailable. China is a rising global power, and it's unlikely they'll offer this energy or technology to their neighbors purely out of goodwill. There's going to be significant economic and political strings attached. Whether this trade-off is worth it for an improved infrastructure and access to green technology, well, that's a complex issue. All of this assumes that what China's doing at home can be replicated elsewhere, which is not always the case. Even China faces serious challenges. Most of their renewable bases are in less populated desert regions in the west, while some of the biggest cities in the world are on the east coast. It's difficult to transport all that power from point A to B without losing a lot in the process. China is developing ultra-high voltage power lines to tackle this issue, but for now, they're generating more renewable energy than they can use, leading to curtailment. All the clean energy generation in the world does not mean too much if it's not actually replacing the fossil fuels. So there are lessons to learn here. The U.S. recently passed the Inflation Reduction Act, directing $500 billion in federal spending and tax breaks towards reducing inflation, with over half that going towards clean energy and nearly $50 billion towards manufacturing. Though no one can match China's manufacturing power, the U.S. isn't too far behind. The western and northern regions of the U.S. have deserts and grasslands that are ripe for solar and wind. There are already installations in many of these places, and the IRA seems to have learned from China's economic incentives. The hope is to go further and create fully fledged clean energy bases. Having everything from mining resources to manufacturing solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries in the U.S. could drop costs and accelerate adoption, providing tremendous energy security. The Kubuqi Clean Energy Base isn't just a futuristic concept or a pitch from an exciting startup. It's real, it's working right now, and it's getting bigger. With sibling bases coming online the next few years, China's essentially doubling the world's renewable generation capacity overnight. What's not to like? Well, it's not all good news. China's emission levels have continued to go up, and they're building coal plants to supplement the intermittent power of their renewable bases. After a post-COVID rebound in CO2 output during 2023, some estimates suggest China may have hit peak carbon, with numbers declining from 2024 onwards. However, building and permitting more coal plants feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. China already accounts for half the world's coal consumption, so it's concerning to see him constructing even more coal plants. Analysts warn of a brewing fight in China between renewables and fossil fuel stakeholders, a struggle seen worldwide. The hope is that renewables will win, and each of us can contribute to that effort in our own countries. As far as technological advancements go, China is pretty far ahead. They achieve architectural marvels that seem impossible to other countries. I mean, this is a country that rebuilds an entire bridge in 24 hours, and it's as if nothing happened. Now China has another mega project, which is the China-Nepal Railway. This is a railway unlike any other, going for so many miles. However, that's not the most shocking thing about it. This railway is expected to go through the Great Himalayan mountain. And if you think they can't do it, then be ready to be amazed. But what is it exactly about this tunnel and railway line that makes it so unique? Well, let's find out. At the point where China's Tibet, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, and other nations converge, there lies the world's highest mountain range, the Himalayas. This is a mountain range with spectacular landscapes and captivating glacier views. This has been one of the most coveted destinations for many adventurers and explorers. However, under all these towering peaks, one of the most remarkable projects in the history of transport's taking place. A team of China's construction workers is building a super tunnel that spans about 18.6 miles or 30 kilometers through the mountain. This tunnel is set to be used for state-of-the-art railway tracks. And given China's success with such insane projects, this is just another mere tunnel construction project for them. But why is China really focused on building this railway line? And how will they build this massive tunnel? Plans for this tunnel all started on August 8, 2022. This was when the foreign minister of Nepal visited China. And during the talks, Nepal expressed interest in establishing a comprehensive interconnected transport network with China. This network, which is the ongoing China-Nepal Railway, spans across the Great Himalayan landscape. However, this is not the first time such a concept has come up. However, this concept has existed for more than 4 decades. This was around the time when China's Mao Zedong extended an infrastructure commitment to Nepal, but it took all those years before the actualization of this project started. But why wait so long before starting this project? To understand the long delay, we have to look at the past a bit. You see, China and Nepal have faced a couple challenges in the past, and most of them were technical and financial. Because of this, they had to put a pause on the complex railway endeavor. However, China has since seen its infrastructure capabilities improve and evolve. With this, a significant investment of $4.3 billion by China was made to facilitate the construction of the China-Nepal Railway. This was in the year 2022. On the other hand, Nepal seems to really want this to work. This is because Nepal on its own is a landlocked country. This means they have had transportation issues. On the other hand, the mountainous terrain handlers travel locally, which has ended up restricting the nation's economic and trade development. Apart from connecting China to Nepal, the completed railway will also connect 3 major cities within Nepal, making commuting between them easier. In addition, Nepalese people will have a third option apart from roads or planes when going abroad. One of the designated sections of this insane project within China's borders meanders across the Tibet Autonomous Region. In the first half of 2022 alone, the region has seen more than 17 million tourists. Even if we assume that only 1/10 of these travelers visited Nepal by train via Tibet, Nepal's tourism industry would still see impressive growth with this project. Another benefit of this new railway is that it'll reshape Nepal's dependence on India for maritime transport. And with this, the country would grow both in foreign trade and socioeconomics. Laos, another landlocked country, would also benefit from the railway system, which would see its market structure grow. This is all thanks to it securing a major transportation channel through the China-Laos Railway project. Similarly, the China-Nepal Railway will also fuel Nepal's national development, allowing its citizens to enjoy the benefits of development. The China-Nepal Railway is currently one of the most formidable railway projects in the world. This project will go through the Himalayan region, encompassing seismic zones and glaciers. However, throughout the construction, the workers will have to deal with a number of unforeseen challenges. Among them are harsh weather conditions and the threat of mudslides. Taking all these factors into consideration, the project becomes even more complicated. According to some scientific expeditions, it's been found that there have been more than 1,000 mudslides along the railway route in recent years. But it gets worse. Some areas have experienced as much as 1 mudslide per kilometer. This definitely makes the construction of the China-Nepal Railway even more intricate. Because of this, the team behind the construction has to come up with ways to deploy advanced technical methodologies and meticulously crafted design strategies if they're to uphold the paramount aspects of construction quality and safety. This new railway will extend the Rigi Railway, which is a branch of China's Qinghai Tibet line that goes into Nepal. A look at the project plan reveals that the China-Nepal Railway will be about 335.5 miles or 540 kilometers long. It's set to start in Tibet, China, and extend all the way to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. It's expected to take 10 years for it to be complete. However, the Chinese might surprise it and finish it even before 10 years. One of the most astonishing things about this railway is that it comprises 98 segments. These segments are made up of bridges and tunnels. And among these tunnels, 45 will go through the famous Himalayan mountains. However, the greatest challenge the construction team will encounter is getting these segments through the Mala Mountains, an offshoot of the Himalayas. This will involve constructing an insane tunnel through the Mala Mountains, which has been given the name the Himalayas Tunnel. It goes without saying that the Himalayas have been known as one of Earth's most loftiest mountains, and very few inhabit them. This is because of the impressive nature here, and to even think of creating a tunnel through an entire mountain is a great task on its own. I'm sure you can already imagine how much they'd have to do for this to be successful. To ensure that the China-Nepal Railway passes through these towering peaks, China initiated the construction of the Himalayas Tunnel in February 2023. 5 months into the excavation, the construction team had managed to excavate a total of 1.04 miles, 1,680 meters. This was pretty fast, given that other nations like the US, Germany, and other developed counterparts would take about a year to achieve this. However, as much as it is a significant milestone, it represents merely a fraction of the entire tunnel project. According to the blueprint, the Himalayas Tunnel is estimated to be about 18.6 miles or 30 kilometers long. So they still have a very long way to go. It's been reported that China is planning to invest more than $1.4 billion in this project. This gives an average of $46 million per kilometer. Interestingly, when you compare this to the cost of the world's longest railway tunnel, the Qatar Tunnel, you can see China's infrastructure initiatives' efficiency and scale effect. The Qatar Tunnel was estimated to cost about $198 million a kilometer. However, China's infrastructure projects are known to offer superior cost effectiveness and scale compared to those of other nations. And with the present construction speed, it's been estimated that the Chinese construction team might be done with the Himalayas tunnel by December 2024. However, the construction of such a massive tunnel has its challenges. Firstly, the tunnel's set in a high-altitude, cold region. This brings about significant obstacles to engineering operations. The greatest one is the lack of oxygen as they go deeper. According to geographers, the oxygen concentration in the air and at altitudes that are more than 15,000 feet or 4,800 meters above sea level is less than half that found in lower regions. And so to see the tunnel to completion, the construction team has to sustain regular work routines as they ensure a steady supply of oxygen through specialized generators. Ultimately, to make the process faster and more efficient, the construction team deployed the Zhuhai shield machine, a marvelous creation conceived and developed within the country. This incredible machine boasts a diameter of 52.7 feet, 16.07 meters, and a mass of 4,300 tons. It's pretty powerful, given that it can excavate a tunnel segment equivalent in height to almost 6 stories in a single operation. This machine's been a crucial instrument in constructing the Himalayas tunnel. The machine comes with forward cutting blades and cutting-edge technology that cleaves through soil layers like a piece of cake. Concurrently, it disposes of the excavated earth through a conveyor belt mechanism. The shield machine has been built so that it digs further. A reinforced support system comes into play. This system applies precast concrete lining, which has been augmented by integrating steel sheet piles and sturdy steel arches. The entire project is unlike any other. However, we can be sure that China will definitely achieve this, maybe even before the estimated period. The Gobi Desert eats 1,400 square miles of grassland annually, displacing thousands of people and threatening the economy. Known as the Yellow Dragon, the Gobi Desert is the 6th largest desert in the world, covering almost 27% of northern China. Shared between China and southern Mongolia, it is the fastest growing desert, alarming the China authorities to take some kind of action.
Known locally as the Yellow Dragon, its expansion has led to many people becoming climate refugees. Beijing fighting desertification.
Over the years, various ecological projects have been revealed in China aimed at reversing desertification and protecting the existing grasslands. Today, we'll discuss the largest restoration taken up by the Chinese government, befittingly named the Great Green Wall. Otherwise known as the Three North Shelter Belt Program, TNSP, it covers 13 provinces across northern China with a total area of 1.5 million square miles. This ambitious 72-year-old plan was launched way back in 1978 and is expected to be completed by 2050. One of the project's goals is to increase forest coverage from 5% to 15% in northwest, north, and northeast China. This project spans up to 2,800 miles by 930 miles. The Green Wall project is expected to increase the world's forest by 10%. The program oversees the planting of various grasses, shrubs, and trees in a systematic pattern that ensures mutual protection and high survival rates. A combination of manual planting and aerial afforestation methods was employed. So far, an impressive figure of 66 billion trees have been planted, creating the largest artificial forest in the world. But to tame the Gobi Desert is no easy feat. After all, the desert covers an area equivalent to 888,000 square miles. Due to its scale, the desert is known to affect regional and global climate and is in turn affected by global climate change. The subsequent climate change makes the Gobi Desert one of the most complex ecosystems to understand and manage. Can the Great Green Wall be successful in halting the Yellow Dragon? And what strategies are being used on the ground to make this change? Understand the present issue situation, we must dig into the past. The problem has its roots almost half a century ago, starting in 1958. Back then, the Republic government undertook a major urbanization program. This required both space and material in the form of timber. Chairman Mao ordered entire forests and wildlands to be razed to provide timber and space for accommodating the growing population. Such human activity left much of the land unprotected against wind erosion and deposition from the surrounding deserts. However, urbanization and climate change aren't the only culprits here. As most of the desert inhabitants herd animals, the overgrazing of fertile land is another driving factor for desertification. Strong winds also blow off millions of fertile soil particles, making the top layer unproductive. Consequently, the topsoil slowly becomes devoid of organic matter and often areas with high salt content are formed. The expanding desert invites other problems like vicious sandstorms. Each year, dust storms blow off as much as 800 square miles of topsoil, and the storms are increasing in severity each year. These storms also have serious agricultural effects on other nearby countries such as Japan, North Korea, and South Korea. The widespread dust storms are known to cause serious economic impacts in these regions. There are now dunes forming just 44 miles from Beijing, and some estimates show the Gobi Desert crawls 2 miles per year towards the capital city. While planting trees might seem a natural move, the cruel weather conditions don't let them thrive. The trees that were planted as part of the afforestation efforts were non-native and thirsty. As a result, they absorb the already dwindling supply of groundwater. This creates a vicious cycle where new trees are planted and then they absorb water and perish along with the other plants. According to a study of the Great Green Wall in 2004 by Su Yang, only 15% of the trees planted since 1978 have survived. According to Jennifer Turner, director of the China Environment Forum, with the Great Green Wall, people are planting lots of trees in big ceremonies to stem desertification, but then later no one takes care of them and they die. Furthermore, monoculture planting in the area has made forested areas more vulnerable to disease. For those who don't know, monoculture planting means growing only one specific crop at a time within a particular area. Sticking to a single species might be beneficial in some cases, but they are often highly susceptible to pathogens. Monoculture planting does little to regenerate nutrients in the soil and fails to create the diverse ecosystems needed for lush vegetation. In 2000, 1 billion poplar trees in China's northwest Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region, representing 2 decades of work, were lost to a single disease. But not everything's that grim, and there are some positive outcomes of the Green Wall. Estimates show that forest areas in northern China went from 5% in 1978 to 13.5% in 2017. China permanently treated nearly 20% of the desert land, restoring nearly 100,000 square kilometers of grassland severely affected by desertification and salinization. Fuelwood was produced with an annual output of 5.47 million tons by the introduction of innovative forestry management techniques. Soil erosion was halted in 40% of the area, rainfall was increased, and there was a visible reduction in the rate of expansion of the Gobi Desert. 82,200 square miles of farmland was protected from wind erosion and related impacts. This success was possible by the constant tracking of the progress by the government and individual effort by the local community. But perhaps it was already too late for the native population living in the deserts. Between 2003 and 2008, 650,000 people living in China's Inner Mongolia province were forcibly resettled into 161 hastily built villages. One such example is the inhabitants of the Tegher Desert on the south edge of Gobi Desert, not far from major cities like Beijing. The Tegher's growing. As it expands, it's merging with 2 other deserts to form a vast sea of sand that could become uninhabitable. This placed an enormous strain on the local population, 30,000 of whom were relocated to a village about 9.6 kilometers from Swan Lake. Residents who live on the edge of the deserts try to limit the steady march of the sand. Along with local governments, they plant hundreds of trees to block the wind and stabilize the soil. Officials also offer subsidies to farmers to help them reclaim land for agriculture. But as the soil becomes hard and uncultivable, farmers often have to use fertilizer and dig deep to be able to grow crops. Miao Miao Lake Village is another example of a village made for hosting ecological migrants. Thousands of people were resettled here from Ningxia Hui, which mostly consists of desert. Studies show that the land could no longer provide for a population of 2.3 million as of 2014. Rainfall was rare, the average temperature has risen by 2.1 degrees Celsius in the last 50 years. The villagers had cut down many trees for firewood and to build homes, he said. And the government never built enough reservoirs. The natives had no other choice but to leave their animals in extensive farmlands. In the new town of Miao Miao, a total of 1,400 homes were built to host the 7,000 population. The size of each family's plot is about 150 square meters, or 1,600 square feet, with the house taking up a third of that. Many complain about the cramped quarters and the farmland allotted to each person, far less than they had in their home villages. As part of the resettlement process, each household had to pay $2,100 resettlement fee and was promised a plot of land to farm as the families left behind plentiful fields and animals. But those who received plots ended up having to lease them to an agricultural company and were left with tiny front yards, where they grew small plants. The resettlement of Ningxia's population occurred in 5 phases starting in 1983. Initially, migrants were given land in the north and told to move and build new homes on their own. These days, the government builds them homes, albeit small ones out of the $3 billion spent on the 5 waves of relocation. The problem of climate refugees is not unique to China itself, but to the world at large. Throughout the past 40 years, the Earth has lost a third of its arable land through erosion and degradation. The Institute for Economics and Peace predicts that in the worst-case scenario, 1.2 billion people could be displaced by 2050 due to natural disasters and other ecological threats. Despite steps in the right direction, national and international responses to this challenge remain limited, and protection for those affected is inadequate. Desertification alone affects 3.2 billion people worldwide, making it a major environmental challenge. However, despite the gravity of the situation, several successful examples of desertification reversed. One such example is the restoration project in Africa with the same name. Known as the Great Green Wall of Africa, the initiative was launched in 2007 and seeks to plant a wall of trees spanning over 8,000 kilometers from west to east of the African continent. More than 77 square miles of trees have been planted so far in Senegal, and overall, more than 700 square miles of land have been restored. The next example is from China itself. Loess Plateau in China was once a barren wasteland. However, through a mixture of government policies and community participation, the area has been transformed into a thriving ecosystem. The restoration process involved the terracing of hillsides, the construction of cheek dams, and the planting of trees and grasses. This step not only halted desertification, but also enhanced the agricultural capacity and the living conditions of the people. Battling environmental changes might require a Herculean effort on the part of both institutions and people, but it is essential for securing a green future for the upcoming generations. That's all for today, so if you liked today's video, hit the like and subscribe button. We are committed to releasing 2 videos each week, so your support means a lot. We'll see you in the next video.